Okay, so here we are again. So, Deamons of the Punjab. So, yeah, we're past the halfway point now of Series 11. And what do I think of this one? And you know what? I'm experiencing a lot of deja vu with this episode. Basically, it's a lot like the Rosa Parks episode in a way. In fact, there are a lot of similarities to the Rosa Park episode. Um, Not in terms of actually what happens in it, but in terms of actual plot elements. So, I've literally just finished watching this, and to be honest, the first 20 minutes of this episode were honestly a bit boring. The first half was a bit boring for me, personally. I think it was a little bit too stretched out. To be honest, it feels uh, more like a half an hour episode stretched out to 50 minutes. It really does feel like it is just twice its actual length. So it just goes on and on and on and on and on for bits. But this is obviously Yaz's episode. I mean, honestly, it does have a nice bit of backstory to Yaz's grandmother, who I don't think has ever got a mention until this point, to be honest. But we find out about Yaz's grandmother, who we never even knew existed beforehand. I don't think she's ever brought a gran up. But yeah, it's another historical that is a pseudo historical that feels like it should be just a pure historical. In the fact that this week's alien menace is disguised as being basically a pretty much an assassins, a race of assassins, but turn out, oh, they're no longer assassins, they're here to be, just to view things. Just like, holy shit, every episode this series is just like, oh, it's an alien race, though they don't want to hurt you and that, and da 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 da. We're not a threat. We're not a threat to you at all. And they're just here to observe things. They're basically the useless foreskin that basically, these demons essentially are essentially, the threat in that of the first half. And then they're sort of, when it's found out that, oh yeah, that they're not actually a threat and that they're just here to observe. So it's like, throughout the second half, it's pretty much, they're completely forgotten about, and then it's just like, when they appear again at the very end, it's just like, oh yeah, I forgot you existed for quite a while. And and the younger brother, I can't remember his name. The younger brother, it's just like, it was as soon as they said, "Oh yeah, we're not the killers, we're not, the person who's going to be killed," it was so obviously going to be him, because who else would it be? He is clearly set up, to be basically the disagreeable brother. It's like, yeah, it's just like there's no subtlety in it. It just like it's obviously going to go one way or the other. And it was always obvious from the beginning that someone was going to die. I do applaud that someone did actually die in this episode. Two people died. Though, again, their deaths were off screen. What is this aversion to basically showing deaths in Doctor Who anymore? I mean, it's on at 7 o'clock. You can see that on the listen that, because on a BBC iPlayer there, that it comes on at 7, so it's not like, it's not like at a point where it's just like, oh well, it may be, upsetting for younger children. This is a family show, and Doctor Who has been showing death in it since 1963 in Unearthly Child. There is death in that story. There is. I'm not saying there has to be a death in every Doctor Who story, but if there is going to be a death, then at least show it. Now with the, old man, I can understand why. It's obvious why they didn't show that death, because obviously, you want to keep it a mystery, and keeping the sort of twist there. So, fine, fair enough, have his death be off screen, but, at the end, it's just like, ugh. So, no, yeah, I think it would have been, to be honest, I felt it would have been more powerful if, rather than him walking up to his brother and having a bit of a chat, to be honest, I would have felt it would have been more powerful if he had just walked up to his brother and then he would have just got shot there and then. No, conversation, try to convince, just to show that there is no convincing this guy. It's just there and then. I think that would have been a more powerful, more striking way, but, it's just and I think the music, with these moments, again, it's not as bad, it's not like in the Rosa Parks episode where the music was just, really max hitting you on the nose as hard as it possibly could. In this one, I think the music did sort of fit it, although it was played at a far, far, far too high volume. Now, I don't know if that was the composer's decision, or it was just, the director's decision, or what. I'm not sure. But it was very, very much on the nose with that, and it just felt a bit hard-hitting. In terms of whether, at least I wasn't as bored as I was of last week's episode. Last week's episode was just basically a snowfest for most parts. It wasn't the worst thing ever, but it was still the second weakest episode of Series 11, and I think this is probably the third weakest story of Series 11, to be honest. It just goes, it has nothing going for it, to be honest. It feels like a bit of a jumbled mess at times. It doesn't know whether it wants to be a pure historical or pseudo-historical, or it wants to be teaching you about other cultures and that, or wants to be, a companion piece. It really just doesn't know what it wants to be, this episode. It feels like it was originally one thing, and then Chris Kimmel took a look at it and thought, well, we'd like it to add this and do this and do this. It really feels like it was originally just a pure historical, and then Chris Kimmel basically said, no, I want this, or this, or this, or this. Where it just feels, in the end, like it's just a complete mess. And also, the sonic screwdriver breaks again. How many times has this sonic screwdriver done a bloody break? And also, I kept making the Harry Potter jokes and the way Jodie Whittaker uses her sonic. They literally use the same effects that they used in the Harry Potter films when they basically teleport. It is literally the same effect. It's even in a wood, so I was getting Deathly Hallows Part 2 vibes from it. Part 1 and 2 vibes, but yeah. I do not call it good, Jack. I do not call this episode good. I really think it was an utter mess, to be honest. Do I hate it? I won't go as strong as hate, but the thing is, it's just like, if I did hate it, then at least I'd feel something from it, but in the end, it's like, it's just a bunch of at the end. In some ways, that's kind of worse. God, at least if I hate it, then I felt something off it, something that's like, of a talking point, but with this, there's just very little to go off, because it's just a complete and utter mess, or, in terms of tone, in terms of story and plot, it just feels very, very jumbled. But yeah, I also, please stop using the sonic screwdriver so much. Literally, it feels like every other scene with Jodie Whittaker, she is holding the sonic screwdriver, using it for something. It's just like, come on, it's more, to be honest, the sonic screwdriver is better used when it's just used more casually, and not the I'm pointing it, I'm walking around pointing it the entire time. It was a massive problem in the Moffat era, and to a lesser extent, though it was still a problem in the T. Davis era. It's just like, come on, enough of this. But yeah, next week's episode Is it me, or does next week's episode remind me of stuff like Delta and the Bannerman and the Greatest Show in the Galaxy with that robot? But yeah, that's what I think of this one. I just didn't enjoy it. To be honest, I think it's the third weakest one of Series 11. I will not be watching this episode again. Not for the sake of it's a thoroughly bad thing, it's just a boring thing, to be honest. The monsters in this one were actually pretty decent in terms of their look and also their voice, They would have made a good threatening villain, but unfortunately they turned that all around. So this just gets me angrier and angrier every time, but yeah. That's me done with this one. I'll see you next week with another one. Bye bye.